GitHub Copilot from Autocomplete to engineering partner. Let's start with an uncomfortable truth today. Most developers are using GitHub Copilot wrong. They treat it like autocomplete. They let it finish a line, accept a suggestion, and then they move on. That's not what Copilot is. GitHub Copilot is not autocomplete. It is not a smarter IntelliSense, neither a shortcut for typing fast. Copilot is close to a junior engineer who never sleeps, never complains, and has read your entire code base more recently than you have. And once you start using it that way, the productivity jump isn't 10 or 20%, it's structural. Typing speed has never been the bottleneck in engineering. Thinking, understanding existing code, and maintaining flow is. Most of our day is not spent inventing algorithms. It is spent navigating complexity that was created over years. Copilot's value shows up when you stop asking, how do I type this faster? And start asking, how do I think less about the boring part? Copilot doesn't just look at the line you are typing, it understands the current file, nearby files, naming conventions, coding style, framework pattern, and your previous decisions. It builds a working mental model of your project as you work. That's why the magic moments doesn't come from detailed instructions, they come from intent. Now let's take an example. You are working as a fintech backend. You type a comment, validate PAN number. You don't specify regex, you don't specify edge case, and you don't specify formatting rules. Copilot fills in the regex, null checks, length validation, and error handling. That's not autocomplete. That's content-aware engineering assistance. And the real win here isn't saving 5 minutes once. It's saving 2 or 3 minutes, dozen of time every single day. Let's make this real. You're a backend developer in a mid-size Indian product company. Springboard, legacy services, half the code is 5 years old. You are asked to add a new API endpoint. Without Copilot, you'll search for a similar controller, copy existing code, adjust request model, fix validation, run test, and then fix what is broken. With Copilot, you just type create API to fetch user transaction by data range. Copilot generates the controller method, uses your naming conventions, matches error handling, and follow existing pattern. You still can review it and adjust business logics, but you don't start from zero this time. To understand Copilot properly, think it in a 3-layer system. Layer 1, typing reduction. Copilot writes code faster than you can, and that's pretty obvious. And honestly, that's the least interesting part. Layer 2, cognitive load reduction. Copilot remembers patterns so you don't have to. You don't think, how do we do this last time? Copilot already knows. This reduces mental friction, and mental friction is what drains energy over long days. Layer 3, flow state protection. This is the real superpower. Every time you stop to Google syntax, search Stack Overflow, copy boilerplate, or find similar file, you break flow. Copilot keeps you inside the ID, inside the problem, inside the momentum, and flow is where the real productivity lies. So where does Copilot truly shine? First, boilerplate, DTOs, request and response model, constructors, mapping layers, code that must exist but add zero intellectual value. Copilot handles this effortlessly. Second, API handlers, controllers, routers, validations, standard error responses in framework like Springboard, ASP.NET, Express, or Fast APIs. Copilot already knows the items. It doesn't fight the framework, it follows it. Third, test cases. This is where most developers lose hours. Copilot can generate happy paths, edge cases, mocks, and follow your test styles. Isn't it perfect? No. But getting to 70 or 80% coverage in a minute is a massive win. Fourth, refactoring. You paste messy codes. You write refactor for readability. Copilot extract methods, improve naming, reduces duplication and preserves behavior. This removes procrastination around cleanup, and that matters more than people admit. Now, where does Copilot fails? Business logic, domain rules, architecture decision, trade-offs involving scale or compliance, and that's expected. Copilot doesn't know why something exists. That's why the right mental model is not Copilot write codes for me. It's Copilot possesses. You decide. Here's a rule that works extremely well. The 70-30 rule. Let Copilot write your 70% of code. You review and finalize and last 30%. The last 30% is where engineering judgment lives. Copilot exaggerate execution. You retain responsibility. Now let's talk about India. Most Indian engineers team deal with legacy Java or NET systems, large monoliths, minimal documentation and high churns. Often the hardest part of the job isn't about writing the code, it's understanding old code. Copilot helps you read code faster. You open an unfamiliar class, you type, explain what this method does. Copilot summarize logic in plain English that alone can save hours. Think of Copilot as a translator between legacy code and modern understanding, between past decisions and present developer. When the original author left years ago, Copilot becomes your proxy. It doesn't replace documentation, but it reduces dependency on tribal knowledge. Now let's talk about some common mistakes. Mistake 1. Using Copilot passively, blindly expecting suggestions without reading. That's dangerous. Mistake 2. Under-specifying intent. Copilot works best when you decide what you want, not how to type it. Comments matter. Mistake 3. Expecting perfection. Copilot is probabilistic. It will be wrong sometime. That's normal. Mistake 4. Not guiding Copilot. Say things like follow existing pattern, add edge cases, match current error handling. Treat it like a teammate. Here's something interesting. Copilot benefits senior developers more. Now the question is why? Because seniors knows what good output looks like. They spot bad logic instantly. They guide Copilot effectively. This means seniors spend less time on typing and more on designing, reviewing, and mentoring. That's leverage. One last important warning. If you don't understand what Copilot generates, don't ship it. Use Copilot to accelerate learning, compare approaches, and explore patterns, not to outsource thinking. At a team level, Copilot changes velocity not because people work longer, but because less time is wasted on boilerplates. Flow breaks are fewer, code reviews focus on logics, and onboardings become faster. These gain compounds. So here's the final takeaway. GitHub Copilot isn't autocomplete, it is an engineering partner. It handles the boring, repetitive, low leverage work so you can focus on judgment, design, and problem solving. Let Copilot do the first draft, you do the thinking. That's the real productivity.